Richard Lynch as Arctis Baran. Richard Hugh Lynch was born on February 12, 1940, in Brooklyn, New York, to an Irish Catholic family. At the age of 53, he appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation 1993, playing Arctis Baran, a cold and ruthless mercenary in the two-part episode Gambit. This role marked the impressive return of a familiar villain on screen, with scarred features that both terrified and captivated millions of viewers. On June 19, 2012, Richard Lynch was found dead at his home in Yucca Valley, California, at the age of 72. His body was left alone in the kitchen for several days before a friend visited. The cause of death was determined to be a heart attack. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $1 million, largely amassed from more than 160 film and television roles, including The Sword and the Sorcerer, 1982, for which he won the Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actor, and Invasion USA, 1985, where he faced off against Chuck Norris. Richard Lynch's life was a journey of tragedy and redemption. In 1967, under the influence of PCP, he set himself on fire in Central Park, New York, resulting in burns to over 70% of his body. The incident not only left him with permanent scars, but also motivated him to quit drugs and pursue a career in studio acting. He often played villains, but in real life, he was a lonely and vulnerable soul. He was nominated for a Tony Award in 1977 for a stage performance with Al Pacino, and starred opposite Judson Scott in the 1982 film The Phoenix. However, broken marriages, the death of his only son Christopher from pneumonia in 2005, and growing distance from his friends drove him into seclusion in his later years. Despite a history of drug addiction, a horrific accident, and years of mental instability, Richard Lynch remains a symbol of rebirth and dedication. David Warner as Gul Madred. David Warner, known to Star Trek fans for his chilling portrayal of Gul Madred, brought unforgettable weight to his role as the Cardassian interrogator in the Next Generation episode, Chain of Command. Born on July 29, 1941, in Manchester, England, Warner joined the Star Trek universe in 1992 at the age of 51, with the haunting line, "There are four lights that will echo throughout the history of science fiction." He died on July 24, 2022, just days before his 81st birthday after a battle with cancer. His net worth is estimated at $8 million, amassed from a long and illustrious career on stage and screen, including roles in Titanic, Tron, and Time Bandits. David Warner's personal life was marked by emotional complexity and dedication to his work. He had a son with Harriet Lindgren, but the couple divorced in the early 2000s. Friends described him as a very private, almost reclusive man who preferred literature and solitude to the partying of Hollywood. For much of his life, Warner suffered from chronic stage fright and avoided live theater for decades, a stark contrast to his powerful on-screen persona. Despite critical acclaim, he often struggled with self-doubt and once described acting as more of a challenge than a joy. In his later years, he lived quietly in Northwood, London, and continued to write audiobooks and voiceovers until his health failed. Still, his portrayal of Madrid Gul remains one of the darkest and most psychologically layered performances in Star Trek history. Patty Yasutake, tight or Y when Alyssa Ogawa. Patricia Sue Yasutake was born on September 6, 1953, in Gardena, California. She began playing Nurse Alyssa Ogawa in Star Trek: The Next Generation in 1990, when she was 37 years old. The character of Ogawa, a dedicated nurse aboard the Enterprise D, has become a symbol of strong, gentle, and courageous Asian women in the Star Trek universe. She died on August 5, 2024, at UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center after a long battle with a rare form of T-cell lymphoma at the age of 70. Her net worth at the time of her death was estimated at $2 million, primarily from her television roles and especially her legacy on the Star Trek series. Patty's personal life was far from glamorous. As an Asian American in an industry rife with prejudice, she was often relegated to bland supporting roles. A brief marriage in the early 1990s ended quietly amid rumors of emotional abuse. Though she never confirmed any of it, it is believed that she secretly struggled with long-term depression, partly due to her career being stunted. and partly due to feeling trapped in the Nurse Ogawa image that audiences associated her with. After appearing in Star Trek First Contact 1996, Yasutake gradually withdrew from major projects, only appearing occasionally in Boston Legal and a few independent films before disappearing from Hollywood altogether. Her death was a gentle but haunting loss. Charles Cooper as Prime Minister Campek. Charles Darwin Cooper was born on August 11, 1926. He joined the Star Trek The Next Generation universe in 1990 at the age of 64, playing Klingon Chancellor Campek in the episode Sins of the Father in Reunion. His character was the cold embodiment of power in the Klingon Empire, carrying the political weight and brutality of a warrior civilization. The role made Cooper a memorable part of Star Trek's golden age. Charles Cooper died on November 29, 2013, at the age of 87. The cause of death was never officially announced, leaving fans in disbelief and grief. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $1 million, largely from his television earnings and his notable roles as alien characters. Few people know that, beneath his Klingon facade, Cooper carried deep emotional scars in his personal life. He had a strained and fractured relationship with his son, to the point that his son publicly criticized him in the media for being controlling and emotionally distant. He later married Pamela Searle and had 3 children, but the emotional scars of his past continued to cast a shadow over his soul. There were no major scandals or tragic accidents, but Cooper lived like a man forgotten by the spotlight. He always regretted the roles that Hollywood had rejected, especially when he was once considered for a leading role, but was ultimately rejected because his face did not sell tickets. He quietly left the stage, leaving a lingering sadness in the hearts of his fans. Barbara March as Lursa. Barbara March, born Barbara Jean Machka, was born on October 9, 1953 in Canada. At the age of 38, she made her debut in Star Trek The Next Generation as Lursa, one of the infamous Duras sisters, who represented the ambition and ruthlessness of the Klingon Empire. With her sharp features and commanding presence, Barbara quickly made Lursa one of the most memorable female villains in the Star Trek universe. On August 11, 2019, Barbara March passed away at the age of 65 after a long battle with cancer. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at $1.5 million. Much of her income came from television roles and years of theater at the Stratford Shakespeare Festival, the Guthrie Theater, and theaters in New York and Los Angeles. Barbara's personal life was no less strained. Her long marriage to Alan Scarfe, who also appeared on The Next Generation, was plagued by separations and artistic jealousy, especially as she devoted herself more and more to the stage. Their daughter, Antonia, became a musician but kept her distance from the media. In the late 1990s, Barbara devoted herself to her solo play The Raising of Charlotte Bronte, but the play's financial failure plunged her into a deep depression. A perfectionist to the extreme, she was known to walk out of a performance if she felt her co-star was ruining the mood. Her uncompromising attitude eventually turned the film industry against her. Despite being a true talent, she rose to the top and then faded away in silence. Georgia Brown as Helena Rodchenko. Georgia Brown, born Lillian Claire Clott, was born on October 21, 1933, in London's Poor East End. She was 57 when she appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation in 1990, playing Helena Rodchenko, the kind-hearted foster mother of Worf, the Federation's only Klingon warrior. In the film, Helena is a kind woman who loves her adopted son like her own, bringing a humane perspective to the cold space. Although she only appeared in 2 episodes, this character left a strong impression thanks to the gentleness and emotional depth that Georgia Brown brought to the role. Sadly, Georgia Brown passed away not long after this performance. She died on July 5, 1992, at St. John's Hospital in London, at the age of 58. The cause was complications following surgery for a bowel obstruction. Her death came unexpectedly, just as she was preparing to perform at a tribute concert for Sammy Davis Jr. At the time, her net worth was estimated at $500,000, modest but reflective of a life devoted to art rather than fame. Georgia Brown's personal life was full of ups and downs. She was married to producer Gareth Wigan, a relationship that began as an artistic collaboration but eventually fell apart due to differences in opinions. They divorced in 1981. She had only one son and lived a quiet life, away from the limelight, as well as her iconic role as Nancy in the 1960 musical Oliver, which brought her great success both in the UK and on Broadway. Georgia starred in A Little Night Music and appeared regularly on British television. After her divorce from Wigan, she fell into depression but never gave up her passion for music. In her later years, she composed, produced, and performed in small concerts, as if that was the only way she could heal. A Jewish woman once rejected by Hollywood for not being beautiful enough ended up being the one to give heart to the cold vastness of the galaxy. Leonard Nimoy as Spock. Leonard Simon Nimoy was born on March 26, 1931 in Boston, Massachusetts. In 1991, at the age of 60, he appeared on Star Trek: The Next Generation as Ambassador Spock in the episodes Unification Y and Unification 2. The character of Spock, half Vulcan, half human, embodied logic, calmness, and timeless wisdom. Spock was a role that recalled and deepened the character that Nimoy had been associated with for nearly half a century. Leonard Nimoy died on the morning of February 27, 2015, at his home in Bel Air, Los Angeles, after a long battle with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. He was 83 years old. His estimated net worth at the time of his death was $45 million. His career spanned more than 6 decades as an actor, director, screenwriter, writer, and visual artist, including Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and 3 Men and a Baby. His personal life was full of drama. He married Sandra Zober in 1954 and had 2 children, Julie and Adam. He was a busy and sometimes distant father. That 32-year marriage ended in silence. He later remarried to actress Susan Bay. In the documentary Mind Meld, Nimoy revealed that he struggled with alcoholism during the filming of the first Star Trek film, and that he voluntarily checked himself into rehab, a quiet but decisive decision. Although he has long been regarded as a symbol of reason, he remains a very human contradiction, both approachable and mysterious. His return as Spock in Star Trek 2009 and Into Darkness 2013 felt like a final farewell, simple, solemn, and profound. Among the stars, he left something immeasurable in terms of fame, along with a message: live long and prosper. Tony Todd as Kern. Anthony Tyron. Todd was born on December 4, 1954 in Washington, D.C. He joined the Star Trek universe in 1990, at the age of 36. With his tall stature and deep, distinctive voice, Tony Todd transformed into Kern, Worf's proud and emotional younger brother. On Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then Deep Space Nine, Todd conquered audiences and left a lasting impression on fans. Todd died on November 6, 2024, at the age of 69, after a quiet battle with stomach cancer. Despite his failing health, he completed his final 2 projects: Final Destination, Bloodlines, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, both of which are dedicated to his memory. His net worth is estimated at $10 million, the result of decades of film, television, and voice work, including his role as the villain Venom in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, for which he was nominated for an award. Todd's personal life was a mix of explosive talent and quieter corners. His marriage to Fatima Cortez produced 2 children, Alexander and Ariana, but was always challenged by the distance, his intense passion for art, and his long-term mental health. In the 1990s, a brief relationship with a young actress sparked controversy when she accused him of emotional manipulation, though no lawsuits were filed. After The Rock 1996 and Hatchet 2 2010, he often turned down blockbuster roles in favor of characters with depth and dark inner thoughts. In his later years, his health was failing, forcing Todd to live a mostly isolated life in Marina del Rey, California. However, Tony Todd's legacy remains strong in the history of horror and science fiction films. George Murdoch as Admiral J.P. Hansen. George Murdoch, born George Sawaya Jr., was born on June 25, 1930, in Salina, Kansas. He was 60 years old when he entered the Star Trek: The Next Generation universe in 1990, playing Admiral J.P. Hansen, a high-ranking officer in the bloody war against the Borg. With his stern face and warm, soulful voice, George not only starred in one of the most intense episodes of the series, but also left a lasting impression on sci-fi fans. He died on April 30th, 2012 in Burbank, California, at the age of 81 after a battle with cancer. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at $2 million, amassed from steady work in television and voice acting. George married a woman named Kathy and lived with her for the rest of his life. They had no children of their own, but he cared for and loved his stepchildren as if they were his own. However, working with George was not always easy. He was known in the film industry for his hot temper and sometimes demanding nature. On the set of Star Trek V, he clashed directly with William Shatner over a script disagreement, creating a tense atmosphere on set. However, he continued to show his talent through roles such as Yuri Testikov on Seinfeld, and countless roles as judges, police officers, and powerful figures on television. To those who saw him as Admiral Hansen, or as Big Daddy and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, George Murdoch remains a revered part of television history. Mahil Barrett Tongvai Luoxana Troy. Mahil Lee Hudek, better known by her stage name Mile Barrett Roddenberry, was born on February 23, 1932, in Cleveland, Ohio. In 1987, at the age of 50, she joined Star Trek The Next Generation, playing Ambassador Luoxana Troy, a flamboyant, eccentric, and daring Betazoid character and mother of advisor Deanna Troi. Luoxana was not only a breath of fresh air in the Star Trek universe, but also a symbol of emotional freedom. Mile Barrett Roddenberry died on the morning of December 18, 2008, at her home in Bel Air, Los Angeles, after a long battle with leukemia. She was 76 years old. Her estimated net worth is around $10 million, largely from her production rights and voice work as the spaceship computer in most Star Trek series from 1966 to 2023. After her death, a portion of her ashes, along with those of her husband, Gene Roddenberry, were sent into space on USS Enterprise, which launched successfully on January 8, 2024, marking a truly Star Trek-esque finale. Miguel's love life was as dramatic as the characters she portrayed. While working as a supporting actress on The Lieutenant, she began a relationship with Gene Roddenberry, who was married at the time. They were officially married in December 1969 and had a son, Eugene Roddenberry, born in 1974. After Gene's death in 1991, Miguel not only became the heir to the Star Trek legacy but also the First Lady of the Galaxy, wielding considerable power behind the scenes. She was often described as controlling and uncompromising, and was especially known for cutting ties with anyone she deemed disloyal. But to her fans, Miguel Barrett Roddenberry is more than just an actress. She's the soul of the universe. Malachi Throne as Senator Pardek. Malachi Throne was born on December 1, 1928 in New York. At the age of 63, he played the role of Romulan Senator Pardek in Star Trek The Next Generation, in the two-part episode Unification, in 1991. With his scheming and sinister performances that left viewers shivering, he helped turn political espionage into a television phenomenon. On March 13, 2013, Malachi Throne died at his home in Brentwood, California, after a battle with lung cancer at the age of 84. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $1.5 million, a modest sum considering his decades of service. Throne's personal life was not without its ups and downs. His first marriage to Judith Marians lasted 27 years, but ended amid numerous disputes, including accusations of controlling and emotionally abusive behavior. The couple had 2 sons, one of whom, Zachary Throne, became a musician and actor. His second marriage, to Marjorie Bernstein, also ended in silence. Although a talented actor, Throne was often overlooked by Hollywood, in part because of his unconventional appearance. He was criticized for pushing younger actors aside during rehearsals, and his health declined significantly in his later years. His passing has brought to an end a long journey full of pain, but also full of art. Andres Katsoulas Trung or Tomalak. Andrew Constantine Katsoulas was born on May 18, 1946, in St. Louis, Missouri. He joined the Star Trek The Next Generation universe in 1989, at the age of 43, As the powerful and mysterious Romulan commander Tomalak, the character established him as one of the series' most memorable villains, with his cold eyes, resonant voice, and fierce confrontations with Captain Picard. On February 13, 2006, Andreas Katsoulis died in Los Angeles at the age of 59 from lung cancer after an unsuccessful battle with the disease. A heavy smoker, he had been diagnosed with terminal cancer just a year before his death. At the time of his death, he left behind a net worth of approximately $3 million, largely due to his iconic roles in Babylon 5 and Star Trek. His remains were cremated, and his ashes were kept by his last wife, Gila Nissan. His personal life was tumultuous. His first marriage to Marva Marie Cadane ended in divorce after they had 2 children, Michael and Catherine. Family members recall Andreas as a loving father but emotionally distant, especially during his struggles with alcoholism. After moving to New York and joining the Peter Brooks International Theater Company, he embarked on an intense and lonely artistic life, performing in mental institutions, prisons, markets in Venezuela, and quarries in Australia. After years of struggling between the limelight and harsh reality, he finally found his cinematic mark with The Sicilian, 1987, followed by The Fugitive, 1993, in which he played the terrifying one-armed villain Frederick Sykes. It was the mark of a true artist, a life of hardship, but brilliant in his roles.